April 6. I promised a heroic tale today, the counter-reaction to Uruk's recalibration of the explorer-exploit payoff balance by rewarding exploiting existing ideas more than exploring for new stuff. Something that allowed people to remain locked in their social self-persona and form their opinions by assimilating them from the group mind, not needing to think. Locked in because when you play this social persona all the time, you forget that there's something behind it. That there's something where what it feels like to be the multicellular you comprised of your body and all the bacteria living in as a holobeyond who all have their own intelligence, goals and things to say. Someone who can create their own neurodiversity in order to look from a different perspective on the same things, a requirement to effectively problem solve. This all to say, Uruk's new urban life model definitely had some things going for it, with all its standardization, but it also heavily limited the finely tuned problem-solving machine evolution had made humans to be. I think I can guarantee you that these modern scientific thoughts were not what anyone in Mesopotamia in the 4th century BC had in their minds. They are for our benefit. These people had their own hands-on in the wild type of science and an ancient oral tradition that can be very accurate and sophisticated, as the oral traditions of the Aborigines of Australia proves. They also simply assumed that every person had free freedoms, even though we find them inconceivable today. For one, the freedom to abandon one's community, knowing one will be welcomed in faraway lands. What also means that we other people in faraway lands must be willing to take in strangers. Number 2. The freedom to shift back and forth between social structures and with it between personas depending on the time of the year and the need. 3. The freedom to disobey authorities without consequences, what leads to the need to convince people rather than to order them around. And when you look at what was going on in Uruk and its satellites, you can see tension brewing there. Let's make it concrete in Arslantepe, in today's Turkey. It's located in upland fertile Crete for those few who listened to the episodes about the countercultures that developed there right after the end of the Ice Age. The site may have started as a place of seasonal trade fair. It's rather high located, so it's snowed in the winter, not perfect for year-round living. That changed at around 3300 BC, not the weather, but Uruk chose it to establish a tiny version of itself there. They built one of their typical temples with its bureaucracy. There was no sign that the used violence forced anyone to pick up their lifestyle. It looks more like they did what was the usual way to do such things at that time, shifts of social structure to convince those who disagreed with them with arguments like their superior standardized wool products. The societies of their targets were still flavored by the distinction achievable by a successful hunt or forage. They drew at least part of their pride from their power over the dangerous beasts they hunted. Having a standard put not only on goods, but also themselves, was a hard sell. Too hard sell, it turned out. Within a few generations, the Uruk temple was dismantled. In its place rose what's today known as the world's earliest palace, a massive private structure enclosed in a grand audience chamber and living quarters, as well as a storage area, including an armory. An assemblage of swords and spearheads, finely crafted of arsenic-rich copper and quite unlike anything found in public buildings of the Mesopotamian floodplain, signals not only control over, but a celebration of the means to enact violence, a new aesthetics of personal combat and killing. From 3100 on rose at the edges of an urban civilization, and as a direct reaction to its emphasis on exploitation over exploration, what standardization represents, something completely new, a warrior aristocracy. All traces of bureaucracy disappeared. In their place, we find not just aristocratic households, but for the first time, heroic burials, the things we like to dig up, indicating an emerging cultural emphasis on feasting, drinking, and the beauty and fame of the individual warrior. This is a pattern that appears time and time again, always around the fringes of urban life, with common features that strikingly remind me of authoritarian movements like Trump's today. But those common features and what they tell us about the mind shall be tomorrow's subject. For now, think. Make a habit out of thinking. Turn thinking into a movement. Like, comment, share, and follow, lest you will miss a single opportunity to improve yourself and society. Thank you for gifting me with a few minutes of your most precious, your lifetime. I'm truly grateful.